Good, everybody. Hoping you're having a pleasant week wherever you may be. Welcome to the Midstate 48, driven by Miracle Auto Group. Chris Brooks here with you to get you ready for the playoffs. And I've got the whole gang here. There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
Who had Tom?
Yeah, if you had Tom in your playoffs pool, then you win. So
that's it.
Tell him what he's won, Cam.
Oh man, it's time, guys. It's flew by. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It really seems like it was just briefly. It has flown by. We were roasting out there on the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly still fairly warm for November 1st. So
thankfully,
yeah,
you certainly expect that to change, but at some point. But nothing wrong with 70 in November.
Oh no, and it's supposed to be beautiful for Friday night this week and football weather. So
yeah,
everybody get out. If you need your blankets, get your hoodies out. Go out to a ball game.
There you go. Let's take a look at the AP rankings one more time for this season, as they're going to go away after this week, I believe, unless they do year-end rankings, I think. But no matter either way, 6A had a lot of shuffling after those Week 11 games, except for Oakland and Cane Ridge, who stayed 1 and 2, and then everybody else decided they were just going to find a different spot.
Yeah, big nosedive. Dobbins Bennett down 5, Centennial down 6, and then Maryville jumps back up the top 3. And guys, I think we believe Maryville still belongs there. No, they've had a 7-3 season, and for Maryland, that's a bad year. Maryville, that's a bad year considered by some fans, but I still think that's a really good football team.
And there's not very many worlds where a 3-loss team's going to be in your top 3, but when your name is Maryville, you can pull that off.
Yeah. We talked a lot about Beach and them climbing into this. Boy, they climb up to 6 at the end of the season. And, we were saying all along that we thought they should be, they deserved a place on this list. Pretty respectable finish to the regular season there in that ranking.
Yep.
Yeah, the only team there in 6A that's kind of a surprise there is Brentwood, just outside of the top 10, holding victories over the number 10 team, and also a win over Independence as well.
Yeah. Well, the way that Region 7 6A worked out Friday night, Scott, you were at Brentwood for that Brentwood Centennial game. Just the way that it worked out, it couldn't have went any worse for Centennial.
No, it really couldn't have. I mean, about midway through the third quarter, it started floating around that Ravenwood was way up on Independence across the Brentwood side, and you could tell that they were just amped up even more knowing that information. Centennial played well, but this is one of those situations. You have to get the ball in the end zone when you start talking about getting in the playoffs. Field goals aren't going to cut it.
Yep.
And that's what cost them. I mean, two really big plays. The long run by Nasser that gave Brentwood the lead at halftime, and then a long screen pass that gave them field position to get the Adam Fontecha touchdown run. And that was really all it took.
Yeah. We'd be remiss without mentioning Blackman up won the number 9 this week. They had already had second place locked up in their region, so they were able to kind of enjoy Week 11 and finish with 8-2, marking the regular season. 5A, nobody moved. I mean, you've got your 4 teams at 10-0, and then a 6-pack at 8-2 behind them. Knoxville West has all the first place votes, and Nolensville number 2.
I think that's pretty close to being right, guys.
Yeah.
The Powell team there at 6, 2 losses without quarterback Jordan Potts early on in the season. But I definitely think that they're probably a top 4 team, as well as the Page Patriots. They had rough back-to-back weeks that really gave them their 2 losses in the season, but I still think that they're probably a top 5 team.
Yep. Now Juliet at 7, over Green Hill last Friday night. Big win for the Golden Bears. in the Mayor's Cup game. Certainly well deserved for Mount Juliet to be in that top 10. Green Hill falls out and doesn't get votes after that loss, but Green Hill at Page is one of those playoff games we'll talk about later on. It's a rematch from last year, and there are several of those on the schedule for this week. So we'll dive into those in a bit. We look over at 4A. No change among the top 10 either. Greenville and yet unanimous number 1. Pearl Cones at 4. Macon County's at 8 and holding steady there. And then DeKalb County just outside getting at least a vote in the poll.
This is going to be interesting. I'm sorry, Tom, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say DeKalb County coming off another heartbreaking overtime loss. 2 in 3 weeks, they lost by a single point in overtime, and Stone Memorial got them on a 2-point conversion there in the overtime session. DeKalb County's lost 3 in a row as they go into the playoffs, but I think they're a dangerous 6-4 team that that needs to be watched out for in the first round up against the teams out of Region 3 4A.
Yeah, but oddly enough, go ahead, Scott.
Well, I was just going to say that you look at a team like Macon County, who's at number 8, and then you look down at others receiving votes, and there's Red Bank sitting down there. That's how close these teams are. When you're talking about voting, is that that could quickly just flop, based upon how things turn out on Friday.
Yeah, you talked about DeKalb having those 2 1-point losses. Both those losses came via 2-point conversions. They failed to hit a 2-point conversion against Upperman, and then Stone scores a 2-point conversion to defeat DeKalb. They're 2 points away from being region champs.
Ironically, Stone beat Upperman on a 2-point conversion out of Region 4-4A, and I believe it was also a 2-point conversion in the Macon County Stone Memorial game. So that's how close that region has been this year. And DeKalb is 2-3 in the region. They finished 4th, and I'm telling you, just by a razor's edge, it could be flip-flopped around. They could have won this region.
Yep. Just a handful of plays between all 4 of those teams. It's kind of wild how that worked out. Scott, you had something else?
Well, I was just going to agree with you and agree with Tom too that really you're talking about sorting all this out in the playoffs. It's really in that region and those 2 regions that are up against each other, anybody's game.
Yeah, moving over to 3A, guys. Smith County moves up to number 5 after the home win against East Nashville. That quadrant really is the only quadrant that we will cover until later on in the playoffs. So that has Waverly, Smith County, East Nashville, and also Fairview receiving votes as well. Those 4 teams I do expect to win Friday night, and they'll wind up playing each other next week.
Yep. Yeah, it could be some interesting stuff over there in 3A with Alcoa unanimous number 1. East Nashville drops 3 spots, and then Covington, Waverly, and Smith County all move up 1 as a result. Fairview's loss knocked them out of the top 10. They in that others receiving votes category as Unicoi County jumps into the number 10 slot. Over in 2A, one of the only ones that didn't have a unanimous number 1, Tyner, has 9 of the 11 first place votes this week. East Robertson at number 5 is the only area school actually ranked. Westmoreland just outside there in 11th.
Yeah, I don't see anything that really kind of jumps out as egregious here. All those teams in the top 5 are pretty solid where they're at, I think.
Yeah, 2A, guys, is the one classification that is 100% wide open. I know Tyner received 9 out of 11 first place votes, but you could very easily, pick any one of those 10. And honestly, a couple other teams that are just outside of the top 10 that could bring home that gold ball in 2A.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on as the first couple of weeks anyway, to see who hangs around to that 3rd weekend. And you look at a team like East Robertson; they've got home field advantage throughout the playoffs up until the championship game. So who knows? I mean, they're going to be able to do it home.
One thing I will mention: we talked about the tradition of a team that we do cover, Trousdale County, last week. Rose up from nowhere and defeated Watertown to find a way into playoffs for the 35th year. They're trying to keep tradition alive again as they've ended Tyner's season the last 4 years as well, and they make that trip to Chattanooga.
that will be something to keep an eye on this week for sure. And
Yeah,
an
I think all bets are off with Trousdale right now, and man, hats off to them for going and getting it done last Friday night. You know, tradition means something on the Creek Bank, guys, and despite the fact they've struggled a lot this season, to go to Watertown, their biggest rival in region play, probably maybe their biggest rival, arguably going right now to win that game by 2 touchdowns. My goodness, hats off to Trousdale County.
Yes, those kids, and as well with Coach Satterfield. It was a mind game Friday night. So to start, Trousdale County, of course, on the road at Watertown, and Trousdale County comes out in their what would have been their home playoff matchup, traditionally purple on purple, and they're on the road. They do warm ups in purple on purple. They go into the locker room and they change out into their white tops, so they're white on purple. Just kind of a little mind game there that Coach Satterfield played with Watertown, and then made a big change. Coben Calhoun, that has started at quarterback for them all the way up to this point, lines up at running back, and we get in the wing tee, and Watertown didn't know what to do with it. They didn't even show it in warm-ups that Coben would be lining up at running back, and it definitely paid dividends, as we'll see here in just a minute.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Cam. This is the 5th consecutive year that Trousdale County has ended Watertown season.
Yes.
Yep.
4 times in the quarterfinal round, and then now in a pseudo playoff game in week 11. So,
and what's worse than that, all 5 were at Watertown.
Yep. Yeah. So maybe then find a way to flip the script next year if Watertown hopes to get past that.
Well, they won't have a chance to.
Yeah, that's true.
Different region.
That's true. Yep. Still waiting on those to be dropped at some point. Whenever they are, we'll talk about them. Let's finish with 1A real quick. Gordonsville's lost to Clay County, dropped them only 1 spot. They went down from 9th to 10th, but other than that, the rest of the top 10 pretty much intact from last week.
Yeah, huge call there from Tom picking Clay County last week. Their score against York really opened my eyes. I thought that game would be close, and the Bulldogs found a way to get it done with a veteran coaching staff.
Yep. Yeah, that was a battle, guys. It was back and forth all night between those two, and I'll be honest with you, I thought it was going to be more of a defensive battle. I expected a lower scoring game than what it ended up being, but hats off to Clay County. They've been an exceptionally good football team this year, and Gordonsville's right there with them, though, and I tell you, it's going to be interesting here in a couple of weeks because I think Clay County is going to come out into the quarterfinal round. Gordonsville most likely is going to have to go through South Pittsburgh again. Those two have a long-standing rivalry. I think there's going to be some really good matchups there in that segment of 1A.
Yeah, Gordonsville will have to get by South Pitt in the second round to get a rematch with Clay County if they want it. So that could be a good one next week if they continue to move on. Division 2, there's not a lot really to discuss here. In single A, Middle Tennessee Christian and Jackson Christian flop spots. Actually, the Cougars fell into the tie for 4th with Nashville Christian. Friendship Christian didn't get all the first place votes. USJ got 1 out of the 11, even though Friendship Christian finished 10-0. So,
I believe USJ's gotten 1 the last few weeks.
I think they have. Yeah, I think they've gotten.
West Tennessee voter.
Probably. Lipscomb Academy unanimous in AA. CPA gets back into the receiving votes category. FRA jumps Chattanooga Christian to 4th. In AAA, it's MBA unanimous, and Brentwood Academy 4th and Answorth 5th. McCauley was tied for 2nd. They're now 3rd solo. So,
yeah, the only thing on here, the way Nashville Christian beat DCA, I would have been perfectly fine with Nashville Christian being 3.
Yeah, I would think so. And something to keep an eye on there in that bracket is we'll take a look at here in the next segment too when we get diving into these brackets. You did mention, Cam, you mentioned Coben Calhoun, and he is one of our Miracle Auto Group Player of the Week finalists for week number 11. So let's just go ahead and go over those finalists. You mentioned Calhoun, 142 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground on 9 carries. It was 2 of 2 passing for 30 yards, and he also had a interception, I think a 2-point conversion as well for the Yellow Jackets in that win at Watertown 21-7. Westmoreland's Cam Eden, 161 yards and 2 touchdowns on 9 carries, 7 of 11 passing, 70 yards, 3 touchdowns. Westmoreland all over Harvard 49-14. Clarksville Academy's DJ Merriweather, 10 of 14 passing, 220 yards, 4 touchdowns, 74 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. They knocked off Mount Juliet Christian 49-13. NBA's Jonathan Moore, 137 yards rushing, and 3 touchdowns on 15 carries. Also caught a touchdown pass for 32 yards as MBA beat Knoxville Catholic 56-24. Ensworth's Levi Moore, 10 of 11 passing, 137 yards, 3 touchdowns, 15 carries, 206 yards as the Tigers beat Briarcrest Christian 42-28. Ravenwood's Carter Pace, 26 carries, 252 yards, 4 touchdowns in that win at Independence that Scott mentioned earlier. Riverdale's Isaiah Verser, 23 carries, 227 yards, and 3 touchdowns in Riverdale's 33-14 win over Stewart's Creek. Pretty good group of finalists there. Voting just wrapped up a short time ago on Tuesday, and Coben Calhoun did come away with the fans' vote this week. Tom, you also went with Coben Calhoun.
Well, guys, you look, and there's a lot of impressive stats by a lot of really good players this week, but Charleston County Watertown was a playoff game for all intents and purposes, and Coben Calhoun, as Cam mentioned, made the position switch. 9 carries, 142 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Pretty good stats in its own right, and had the 30 yards passing, picked off a pass, 2-point conversion. I mean, this young man was doing everything. This is what star players, good players do. They step up in playoff caliber football games. That's what Coben Calhoun did, and I think he stands above the rest, and I voted him player of the week. Cam,
you agree with him?
I did. As Tom said, they had to have it. It was a playoff game. They had to win. Partial credit here goes to Coach Satterfield for moving him to the running back position. But at the end of the day, players make plays, and Coben made enough plays to get his team in the playoffs. He's one of the only, we talk about the numbers being down at Charleston County. He's one of the only kids returning from last year's team that got quality playing time starting at quarterback last year before having season-ending surgery on his shoulder. Coben is a great athlete, a triple sport athlete, and he definitely come out Friday night and showed that he wanted it more than Watertown.
Scott, you went with Carter Pace.
I did. In a game that Ravenwood had to have to have a chance at that region, he comes up with 252 yards and 4 touchdowns. I just thought that in those circumstances, and take nothing away from Coben Calhoun, he was actually my number 2. I thought Carter Pace was, meant a lot to that effort.
I typically get the last vote in these, and I kind of see how everything goes. When I knew that Coben Calhoun was going to get the votes that he did, I went ahead and went with Carter Pace just to give him a nod because I thought he should have gotten more love than he did. Coben Calhoun, though, is going to be our Miracle Auto Group Player of the Week from Charleston County. So congratulations to Coben. We've got some hardware that we're going to be delivering over to the Creek Bank very soon for that young man. Very, very well deserving.
Absolutely.
All right, let's hear from those fine sponsors at Miracle Auto Group before we go forward.
Hi, everyone. Jim Galvin, Miracle Ford, your Ford dealer in Gallatin, Tennessee since 1980. Great news, beginning now. When you need service, we can come to you.
Our mobile service van comes to you wherever you are. Whether you need oil change, lube, routine maintenance, warranty, filters, wiper blades, batteries, bulbs, recalls, and more.
Visit our website
or call us now.
Are you ready for a miracle?
Actually, I'm going to call him in the morning. I've got to set up my oil change this week. But hey, guys, folks out there, do us a favor. If you're looking for a vehicle, make sure you check into Miracle Auto Group. And hey, while you're there, let them know that you saw them on the Midstate 48.
Yep.
Yes. New inventory is up at both locations. So if you're looking for a new vehicle, come on by.
All right. Let's move on to some of these brackets and start talking about the playoffs this week. And we're going to start in 6A because there's a lot of intrigue in some of these regions.
Chris puts the colors on there because he knows that I need color charts.
Try to help the people, Scott. Try to help the people.
Oh, I thought he was doing it for me.
It's for the kids. It's for the kids.
Shout out to Chris for finding all these logos, though. I know they're hard to find.
They can be, but we won't talk about how long that took. On to round number 1, we got these matchups with Stewart's Creek on the road to Coffee County, Blackman hosting Cookeville, Riverdale at Lebanon, which is our Spotlight Series game for this week, and then Shelbyville at Oakland. A look at this particular bracket, and I mean, until somebody beats Oakland, it's theirs for the taking, but of these teams, do you think there's one that may give them a little bit of work?
I won't say that they'll give them work, but the most, the spotlight game of the week for us is Riverdale Lebanon, rightfully so. Coffee County better be ready to play Friday night. This Stewart's Creek team is hot. They just happened to go up against another team that was hot too in Riverdale last Friday night. If you're talking about a 4 versus 1 matchup in the state, regardless of classification, this is one of the more intriguing ones where the 4 has a really good shot.
Let's rewind for just a second about that Stewart's Creek game Friday night, because that first minute was insane with 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown by Stewart's Creek and then a long touchdown run by Riverdale. It was 14-7 less than 60 seconds in, and then Stewart's Creek doesn't score again. Crazy.
That was insane. Yeah, 2 big plays and then that 72-yard run by Isaiah Verser, kind of a palate cleanser right in between. But if I'm looking at a team outside of Oakland in this bracket, I'm looking at Blackman. I think that Blackman has a really good chance to get to that round against Oakland, and if Oakland stumbles, they may be ready to pounce.
Yeah, I think the key for Blackman, I agree with you, Scott. I like this Blackman team in the top half of the bracket, but the key, they're going to have to find a way to slow Oakland down. That's been the problem the last couple of years. Blackman can move the football. They've got a great offense. It's the defense that's going to have to step it up. And if they can do that, maybe they have a shot at taking down Oakland. Again, I like them in that top side, but they're going to have to shore up some deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball.
Blackman's defense has done well in every game except Oakland, pretty much. So that's
yeah. And also in that first matchup between those two, Blackman tried the onside kicks. They tried a couple trick plays here and there. The ball just didn't bounce their way. If that ball bounces the other way, you got a great game, and that could definitely happen in the quarterfinals.
Yeah. Let's roll back to the Riverdale Lebanon matchup for just a second, though, because this is a rematch of round 2 from last year, where Lebanon kind of put 6A on notice by beating Riverdale. They ended up losing to Oakland next week, but the hangover a little bit for Lebanon has been real. They've lost a couple of games they probably shouldn't have, and are now the number 2 seed as a result.
Lebanon has not played their best ball yet. That's one thing that if you're a Blue Devil fan, you have to be optimistic about. They definitely have enough talent to win the game against Riverdale and also challenge Oakland. I know early on in the season, Chris, you were kind of on the Blue Devil bandwagon as far as they were one of the teams in 6A that could compete with Oakland, and they definitely have the talent to. But again, they've not played their best ball yet.
Well, I think Coach Gentry would agree that this team has shot themselves in the foot a number of times, whether it be penalties, turnovers, or injuries. I know the last 2 games that Anthony Crowell's been out, but the interesting thing is that they've won with the exception of those 2 games, despite some of those miscues. You never can count Coach Gentry out because his defense is always going to step up.
Yeah, those miscues that they've had though in those games late in the season, they can't afford them now because the way Riverdale has played the last 4 or 5 weeks, they're a much improved team from the team that struggled badly in the first half of the season and one we thought would not make the playoffs. But here they are after a hot streak in October.
Yeah, they found identity on the offensive side of the ball for sure.
Yep. Skip over to Region 5 and 6 for just a few minutes. McGavock at Beach, Hendersonville at Smyrna, Overton at Clarksville, Gallatin at Cane Ridge. To me, this screams Beach Cane Ridge in the quarterfinals, but is there a team that could possibly disrupt that?
Smyrna. I think that's the only one. I think Smyrna is good enough on the defense side of the ball that they could be a problem for Beach. But ultimately, Beach has a good defense too. So that one could be a 21-14 game there in the second round.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at a dark horse here in Clarksville. I think that Coach Shelby, it's taken them half the season because they got their quarterback back this year. He was out all of last year with injury, so it's taken him a while. Their last few games, they've actually been playing very good offense and pretty good defense to hold Gallatin to one, to that 1 score last week. And they were the team that knocked Cane Ridge out in the first round last year. So, if there's a dark horse in this, I like Clarksville to be that dark horse.
Yeah, I could see Clarksville definitely putting a scare into Cane Ridge if they get to that second round. And like you say, Scott, they played some really good football in the second half of the season and kind of quietly snuck in there, and they've got that 2 seed there. And I agree with you as well, Cam. I like Smyrna in the top half of that bracket to give Beach a pretty good go around that second round if they both make it there, because that Smyrna team's got a great defense. And anytime you got a star player like an Arian Carter, you look at teams like that, big performers step up big when the postseason rolls around, or at least they should, and that gives Smyrna a big-time weapon.
I'm going to look at Overton for a minute, because this is a team that the entire season has played without their best weapon, Juice Majors. They're still hoping they can get him back in time to maybe get on the field this year after a knee injury. But if he does, it does change the dynamic both offensively and defensively, the Bobcats' outlook. However, this is a Clarksville team that Scott says is very improved, and they're actually correct. I mean, these two teams played in week 1. Overton won late on a touchdown at Clarksville. It's going to be hard to beat them a second time up there in Clarksville. But if Overton can, and Juice Majors is able to get back on the field, they can disrupt some things in this bracket, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and Cane Ridge can't sleepwalk through Gallatin.
Not one bit.
Oh, no.
Not one bit. 7 and 8 in 6A. These two regions, they finally got things sorted out Friday night, and we could have thrown them in a hat and figured out where they were going to land. But it landed on Germantown at Ravenwood, Independence at Houston, Collierville at Brentwood, and Centennial at Bartlett. So,
yeah, you want to see high quality football, guys. I counted them while we had the AP up. 5 out of these 8 teams are either in the top 10 or receiving votes to be in the top 10. So over half of this bracket is receiving votes to get in the top 10, and they're both regions are relatively similar to each other.
Mm-hmm.
The Memphis region, everybody has the same record, and they've all beat each other. And sure enough, in the Williamson County region, they got pretty close to the same record, and they've all beat each other.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an intriguing matchup, and I could definitely see. I would say any of the 8, but I would cut it down to 6. I say there's 6 teams here with the possibility to get to the quarters, to get to the semis.
I think that there are some questions. I mean, Ravenwood is playing well. Their chances definitely change if they get Chris Parson back. That's going to be a big part of theirs. I wouldn't count out Centennial, though. I think Centennial and Brentwood very well could be, a second round rematch just 2 weeks later. And those two teams played so tight most of that game. It'll be interesting to see how that game turns out, 2 weeks later.
I mean, just look at these 4-1 matchups, guys. You got 8-2 Germantown, 6-4 Ravenwood, and then you got 8-2 Centennial and 8-2 Bartlett. I mean, you got 8 great football teams here, guys. This is going to be one of the best quadrants to watch in any of the classifications, because I honestly think anybody could come out of this. If somebody gets hot, I'm like you, Chris. If Chris Parson comes back, you like Ravenwood's chances a whole lot better. That's going to be a tough matchup in the first round with Germantown.
And whoever survives this crapshoot bracket is hosting the semifinal game in the western half of 6A. So,
and if that other bracket works out, they would be hosting the winner of. If they work out the way most perceive it to be, they would play the winner of Cane Ridge and Beach.
This could be a really, really fun 6A playoffs in this half of the bracket. It may be the most entertaining group of games across the board, just because of the way these teams have worked themselves out. Hard to pick winners on this side for sure.
And it's honestly nice, because every year in the East, you could say, well, it's going to be Oakland versus Maryville.
Yep.
You like a little bit of that mystery, huh, Cam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Variety's not a bad thing every now and then. Speaking of which, let's go back over to 5A. Now Juliet's win over Green Hill puts them in the number 1 spot. They'll host Lincoln County this week. Page and Green Hill run back their quarterfinal matchup from last year in the first round this time around. And Page will host this one. Franklin County travels to White County, and Wilson Central goes to Nolensville. Guys, let's discuss this one. I mean, Page Green Hill to me is the one that jumps out, because I think this was a blowout last year. I don't think it's that way this time.
No, I agree with you, Chris. I think that that's going to be a tough game for both teams. And it wouldn't surprise me, quite frankly, to see the winner of that game come out of this. all things being considered, if Nolensville trips or Mount Juliet trips along the way. I like this Page team. I like, but I tell you, you you can't sleep on Wilson Central now. I mean, they have gotten steadily better. I don't, we'll get into picking these games later, but as far as that team goes, that's heads and tails above where they were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, this bracket is got a couple sleepers in it when you consider that White County has the best running back in 5A football. But they're also going up against a Franklin County team that gave Nolensville and Page all that they wanted and wound up finishing as the number 3 seed. And then, you mentioned Wilson Central, Scott. I also agree with you on that Wilson Central is definitely a team that has gotten better. You looked at them the first 3 weeks of the season, and you would have said things are not looking good for the Wildcats. And then here they are in the playoffs out of a tough region. That Mount Juliet team is a team that still is not hardly getting the respect that they deserve as region champs. The only loss this year coming to Gallatin week 0, week 1, whatever you want to call it. That potential second round matchup with Mount Juliet Green Hill or Mount Juliet Page kind of smell a little spotlight there.
Maybe, and it would be over. It would be over the Bear Den in Mount Juliet too. I mean, they're going to host that first and second round. But everything to me goes through Nolensville. That defense is one of the most improved year over year this season, and that offense is still very powerful. And it's a program that is used to the spotlight as far as playoffs are concerned. They've been in the postseason every year they've been eligible, and not only that, they've had several deep runs. So the way that Knights program is going right now, Mount Juliet Nolensville could be a really, really, really fun quarterfinal game if it comes to fruition.
Yeah.
7 and 8 in 5A. You've got Henry County hosting Dyer County. Portland travels to Southwind. Springfield hosting Memphis Central, and Northeast traveling out to Munford. Do we see Henry County and Springfield run it back, or is somebody else disrupt this?
Well, it's a little bit of a tough draw, and we can only cover the 615 preps teams. So when you look at Munford at 10-0, as a Middle Tennessee media person, we don't really know for sure what Munford has, but just looking at their scores, that Munford team may have something to say about that matchup.
Yeah, I can see that. A 10-0 team, and again, we don't know a whole lot about them, but you probably can bet they've beaten some pretty solid football teams along the way, and going 10-0 is hard enough despite how difficult your schedule may be, even in high school football. But, watch out for Munford there, and I think Henry County, again, there's a Southwind team we don't know much about. We'll know a little bit more this week when they take on Portland. And, can Portland make a little noise in the playoffs? They've had a fairly nice season, and maybe try to throw a wrench in some of the plans of some of these teams as well.
Yeah, I think that it didn't, Springfield didn't do themselves any favors winding up on this side of the bracket. I think that they, Henry County's definitely got a little bit easier road than Springfield does for sure. That being said, I think Henry County is definitely the player in the top bracket. Bottom one, I'm like you, Cam. Munford looks very, very strong. But you never can count out Coach Wilson and his team. His Jackets are very, very tough. And now that Crenshaw's back, that just brings another dynamic to their offense.
Yeah, and the key there for Springfield, I know you mentioned Crenshaw being back for the offense, but you mentioned Coach Wilson, and he's a defensive coach, and defense travels in the postseason. So that is an advantage for Springfield.
Let's drop over to 4A and check out regions 3 and 4, the ones we've talked about a lot this season. DeKalb County at East Hamilton, Chattanooga Central at Upper Macon County at Red Bank, and Hickson at Stone Memorial. Those four could have wound up any other way, honestly. But out of these matchups, is there one that sticks out to you more than the others?
Yes, but it's close. I'll say Macon County Red Bank sticks out the most. You're going to really find out if Macon County has been a top 10 team as they go on the road to face the Lions. The Lions had 2 back-to-back weeks against Fayetteville and then East Hamilton. It wound up costing them the region championship. But Macon County finishes third. They pretty much get the short end of the stick out of a 3-way tiebreaker. Macon County has the talent. Gabe Borders is good enough to go on the road and have a big performance and win this game. The other matchup here, guys, is that top matchup there. DeKalb County going to East Hamilton. DeKalb, 2 1-point losses in region. Really good team, physical team, a team that ever since the quarterback got hurt, Kobe Barnes and that offensive line can really shorten that game and keep East Hamilton's athletes off the field. So that's a dangerous matchup for East Hamilton.
That Macon Red Bank game, from what I've understood, again, I don't follow the Chattanooga area quite as close, but Red Bank has had one of their primary offensive weapons that have gotten hurt, and they've really struggled down the stretch. I believe Fayetteville, and look, Fayetteville's a great team out of 1A, so taking nothing away from them, but they beat Red Bank 38-2 just a couple of weeks ago. Red Bank's really struggled. I really like Macon County in that matchup there. The thing is, you got to go down to Red Bank, and that's not always an easy thing to do. You mentioned DeKalb County, East Hamilton. One player that's really stood out for DeKalb County of late that's not being talked about quite enough is Malachi Trapp. He has really stepped up in that offensive backfield. Yes. He's kind of assumed that slash sort of role that we saw Isaac Knowles play in last year. He's a big weapon for DeKalb County. Guys, I tell you what, I like 4-4A in these matchups. I think there should be some good games here. But I think 4-4A is really strong 1 through 4, and I think they got a good chance to possibly even come away with a sweep in round 1.
Right. I actually agree with you, Tom. I think that DeKalb County's run game and Coach Trapp up there, I think they can actually take it to East Hamilton. But again, to answer Chris's question, the game that sticks out to me is that Macon County Red Bank game. Yeah. Macon County just does so many things well, special teams, defense, offense. If they play their game and they don't turn the ball over, they should come away with a victory in this game.
It'll be a big reversal from their second round game last year where they went down to Red Bank and lost 47-7 to end their year last year. So,
and the reason why that's the most intriguing game is because about 3 weeks ago, you could say that was the quarterfinal game.
Yeah. And then there is in the first round. That's just how these last 3 weeks have gone for this entire group of teams. Flipping over to regions 5 and 6, it's Pearl Cone hosting Jackson Southside, Hardin County hosting Creekwood, Marshall County hosting Chester County, and Greenbrier traveling out to Lexington. Guys, well, get your thoughts on these. Scott, I'll start with you.
Well, I think that Pearl Cone is definitely the team to beat here, but if I'm looking for a team that I think is ready to make some noise, I think it's Creekwood. I think Creekwood has been playing much, much better. They are just kind of sneaky good, kind of flown under the radar. I think they have a really good chance to see Pearl Cone in that second round. Now, where it goes from there, Pearl Cone's going to Pearl Cone. I mean, those Firebirds are just tough. Bottom of the bracket, I kind of think it's Marshall County. I think it's their bracket, but Lexington, I know that Lexington's tough. Greenbrier's got their work cut out for them with Lexington.
Yeah, the team that can knock off Pearl Cone is Marshall County, guys, and the way they're going to do it is outscoring Pearl Cone. Marshall County's offense has put up unbelievable numbers this year with quarterback Silas Deet. We talked about Region 4-4A possibly sweeping. I believe this is also a possible sweep here for Region 5. Greenbrier, I believe, defense travels in the postseason, and Greenbrier towards the end of the year was playing pretty close to their top ability. So they could go, and their defensive line is the top of line that can go on the road and cause enough havoc, maybe create a turnover or two, and keep that Bobcat team in the game.
Yeah, I like Pearl Cone, guys, in the top half of the bracket. They've really come on strong. I think they played exceptionally well down the stretch. But, Cam, I'm like you. Watch Marshall County in the bottom half of that bracket. 9-1 this year. And if they could get back another shot at Pearl Cone, man, I tell you, that ought to be a heck of a ball game.
Yep, for sure. All right, going into 3A. Regions 3 and 4, Cannon County, the only area team of consequence here. But the matchups are like this. Grundy County at Sweetwater, McMinn Central at Sequatchie County, Cannon County at Loudon, Brainerd at Giles County. If you watched our scoreboard show on Saturday morning, we talked about that long trip Cannon County had to make out to Loudon. can Cannon County make some noise here, or does Region 3 have kind of the horses in this one?
I don't think the
Except for
region.
except for Dallas County, I'm going to put that
I
out.
was about to say. I think Giles County is the team to beat out of this quadrant, regardless of the regions here. I do think that second round matchup. I know they're outside of our coverage area, but that second round matchup, possibly between Sweetwater and Sequatchie, could be a pretty good ball game.
Yeah, Sequatchie's got a pretty decent team. Cannon County, they went down to Loudon last year, and I know they're pumped up, and this program's come a long way in the last few years. They're doing some good things. It's a tough road trip, but Cannon County will go down there. They'll be fired up. They'll give their best for certain against a pretty good Loudon team, and we'll see how they come away with that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough road to hoe for Cannon against Loudon, but again, Giles County definitely. I agree with you, Cam. Giles County definitely the team to beat in this region.
All right. Over to regions 5 and 6, the other kind of spotlighted region that we've been working at for the last few weeks. Smith County winning the region title gets Sycamore at home. Fairview will host Maplewood. White House travels to East Nashville, and Stratford heads out to Waverly.
Yeah, we talk about smaller school classifications, guys, and the potential second round matchups here are darn good. Maybe the best out of especially out of the smaller classifications. I know that classification with 7 and region 7 and 8 in 6A is loaded, but these second round matchups potentially between Smith County and Fairview and East Nashville and Waverly are darn good. And if you're an Owl fan, you definitely got to favor. They like that they get to play it the whole time, except possibly in a quarterfinal matchup. But you definitely, if you're Smith County, you're kind of glad to avoid Waverly at this point. As Easton, I believe it's Easton Elliott for Waverly, has just been a wrecking force. Nobody can stop that kid. It could be a problem for East Nashville next week as well.
Yeah, I look at this and there's only one game I see that has a possibility of an upset in the first round, in my opinion, and that's that East Nashville White House game. And that White House is going to have to play a perfect game to do anything. It's just that East Nashville's been on a little bit of a slide. We'll see how they deal with adversity. We'll get into the picks a little bit later, but I'll actually be at that game. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But I think that for the most part, we're looking at second round matchups here that are going to be. I think that Waverly, if it turns out and it's Waverly East Nashville, that's going to be a heck of a game. And I think that Smith County Fairview, if that's the way it works out, it's going to be another heck of a game. So I think that the second round of this one is lining up to be a really, really fun region.
Yep.
But I tell you what, Smith County, a big advantage getting to play at home. I mean, at the hole, they got East Nashville there last week, and I'll go ahead and have my helping of Crow. I picked East Nashville, and Smith County came away with that 15-14 victory. And, they're tough to beat there in that atmosphere with that crowd there. And Smith County, they're going to be tough. They're going to be a tough out having to go there and beat them in the playoffs.
Gee, Tom, how could you pick against the Owls? It's not like –
Notice I said eat crow and not eat owl, thankfully.
Right.
Tom, have enough crow for both of us because I
was going to say, I don't.
Well, y'all better make threes a company here, guys.
Yeah. So,
I'm the only one that picked Smith County last week. Woo. No, I was.
And you did it because you were afraid of Coach Dyer.
Call it whatever it is. He's a very intimidating man.
Knowing him personally, I'm not scared of him, but that's just me.
Yeah,
anyway,
he's a big teddy bear.
Anyway, East Nashville is in a get-right spot against White House. If they can bounce back and do some good things, and maybe they have some momentum that can get back, but coming in off a 2-game losing streak, it's a tough spot to be in. And when White House is kind of smelling some blood in the water for sure, but the other 3 matchups look pretty lopsided to me as well. So,
yeah.
All right, into 2A. There's Trousdale County heading to Tyner. Westmoreland hosts Meigs County. Harpeth on the road at Bledsoe County, and East Robertson gets Polk County at home. All right, guys. So Cam, I'm going to let you discuss this one first. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, expect more of the same out of Trousdale County as far as Calhoun playing running back, I would think, on the road. That Tyner team is probably just a little bit too good for Charles County to go on the road and knock them off for the 5th year in a row. The best matchup in this quadrant is Westmoreland and Meigs County. If there's two teams that play more identical football than these two, I don't know who they are. Both of them play defense. Both of them like physicality. Both of them like to run the football. This will be a huge game. Slight advantage to Westmoreland playing at home at the Rock Pile in Meigs County, having to make that 2.5, 3-hour trip up. The other teams in our area, Harpeth, has to go on the road. That's a long way from Harpeth to Pikeville, guys. Probably lean Bledsoe in that matchup. And then the most intriguing, the best matchup is definitely Westmoreland and Meigs, but the most intriguing is this Polk County East Robertson matchup. East Robertson has athletes all over the field, and they're going to give Polk County fits, guys. But Polk County runs that weird kind of wishbone type offense with some physicality that if they can get good yardage on first down and stay ahead of the chains, they can shorten this game and stay in this game until later on in the game. And one thing that I will add, East Robertson coming off the first region championship since 2005. They lost in the first round in 2005.
Yeah, you look at this is another one of those regions where, you know, these teams have beat up on each other. I'm talking about Tyner, Meigs County, Bledsoe, and Polk. Have kind of beat up on each other, and it's really difficult to get a read. I think that Meigs County Westmoreland game, Cam, I think you're right. I think that's going to be probably the best matchup out of this group. But I really think that there's a good chance for 3 out of the 4 to come out of the East Robertson, Harpeth, Westmoreland, Trousdale County area, that region. History is a funny thing. It repeats for a reason. And I'm really interested to see how Trousdale County stays with Tyner.
Yep. All right, down to 1A to help finish off Division 1 brackets. Red Bowling Springs at South Pittsburgh, Gordonsville hosts Lookout Valley, Whitwell hosts Joe Burns, and Sail Creek travels up to Clay County. We've made a lot of the Gordonsville Clay County game and how that one wound up, and then Gordonsville and South Pitt could be a round 2 game. Is there anything that may disrupt any of this, or do we think the chalk kind of rules here?
I think chalk kind of rules in this region for sure. And I mean, it's inevitable South Pittsburgh and Gordonsville are going to play. I think it's just preordained at the start of the season that these two teams have to play in the playoffs. The Joe Burns-Whitwell game is a little bit intriguing to me. Whitwell's had a nice season, and it's been kind of quiet on the down low after they I believe they won a state title just a few years back. They've kind of had to rebuild again, but here they sit at number 2. But Joe Burns is always a competitive team. That might be the most interesting matchup to me in round 1 anyway.
Yeah, we'll mention they did have to rebuild after winning that state championship. Coach Bolden actually left Whitwell after that state championship game now at Waverly, which is, of course, won their region in 3A. Definitely Joe Burns, Whitwell, the best matchup here. And if you're Clay County, that game, we talked about it, guys. That game last week with Gordonsville was so big, not only because you get to play South Pittsburgh second, so to speak, but you get to play them at home. And that's a huge advantage. Going to Bean Stadium, you talk small school football, you talk small school stadiums and stuff like that. The Jungle surely is a hard place to go in at Gordonsville. The Creek Bank at Trousdale County, a hard place to go in. Bean Stadium is a really hard place to go win, guys, and Gordonsville's going to have to get it done if they hope to get a rematch with Clay County.
Yep.
Well, Gordonsville's got one thing that they haven't had before. They've got a coach that has, well, I don't want to say they hadn't had before, but haven't had recently, and that's a head coach that knows what it takes when it comes to playoffs to take it all the way. And I think that in this particular case, that may play into it. But I think for the most part, we're talking chalk here.
Yeah. Interesting point there as far as like playoff experience for head coaches. Steven Jackson's no stranger to it, coming from Oakland, and this is going to be kind of where his expertise really lies and how they handle this postseason run. So that's going to be interesting to see how Gordonsville handles not just the first round, but South Pittsburgh as well.
And
So
one thing to mention, I know the players have been there. Coach Jackson has also been on the staff at a few games when he was at Trousdale County that went and played South Pittsburgh as well. So not totally unfamiliar with going to play at South Pittsburgh.
good point there. And also, too, Oakland played at South Pittsburgh last year, so Steven Jackson's no stranger to it. He was down there just in 2021. So
Yep.
something that he can prepare for any potential second round game with Gordonsville and South Pittsburgh. Opposite side in 1A, regions 5 and 6, where Eagleville is the number 3 seed. They'll be going to Dresden. You got Fayetteville hosting South Fulton, then McEwen at Moore County, and Wake County at McKenzie. Guys, we'll dive into this one real quick to see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, this one real quickly. Horrible. I mean, they couldn't avoid it. The draw for Eagleville, our lone coverage team out of this quadrant. Guys, it's murderer's row. If you win, you get Fayetteville, probably more than likely. If you beat Fayetteville, you get McKenzie more than likely. I mean, it's just one after another after another. Definitely a tough road for Eagleville if they hope to make any kind of noise.
Fayetteville has looked on a mission to me. I mean, that team is good. I've seen them play. Man, they're loaded, and I think it's going to be tough for anybody to come out of here on that Fayetteville team.
Yeah, I'll call it right now. I think I mentioned it on the scoreboard show maybe a couple weeks ago or something like that. That potential quarterfinal game is the state championship game in 1A.
Yeah, I think Eagleville has a tough time getting past Dresden actually in this first round. I'm not saying they can't do it, but Dresden's a pretty good team, and like you said, it doesn't Cam. It doesn't get any easier. As you get out, it is kind of murderer's row there.
Yep. Let's flip over to Division 2 and look into single A briefly. Friendship Christian and USJ are the 1 seeds in the upper half of that bracket. DCA will host Fayette Academy, while Clarksville Academy will host Lakeway Christian in round 1. Guys, just real quick on these 2 first-round games, you got anything on those?
Yeah, that Clarksville Academy Lakeway Christian game has potential to be a really good football game.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, bottom half of Division 2 single A. Kings Academy at Trinity Christian, Columbia Academy at Jackson Christian, Tipton Rosemark at Middle Tennessee Christian. Nashville Christian will wait in the wings for round number 2.
Columbia Academy could be a player there to knock off Jackson Christian, but we'll see. Going on the road in the playoffs is tough.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think that Middle Tennessee Christian, Columbia Academy could be an interesting second-round matchup and very well could happen.
And, man, what a draw for Nashville Christian, guys. I think they're the clear favorite here on this side of the bracket.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. Double A is Boyd Buchanan at CPA, good pass stretch out of the Christian, Knoxville Grace at FRA. Lausanne awaits the Boyd Buchanan CPA winner in round number 2 in the upper half.
My
We
gosh.
talked about a good draw. Everybody in this side of the bracket got a bad draw.
How'd you like to be Lausanne, number 1 with the bye, and you get to face CPA or Boyd Buchanan in the second round?
Ingle Martin or Gary Rankin. Pick your poison right in round number 2.
Congratulations. Yeah.
And, guys, as a Tennessee fan and Tennessee heavily recruiting one of them, I've mentioned it for like 3 weeks in a row now. That potential Chattanooga Christian FRA game in the second round is going to be a great football game to go watch, guys.
Yeah.
If you want to see how to play running back, go watch that one with Boo Carter and Ty Clark.
Boy, if it's CPA FRA in that semifinal, look out, because those two ran a fantastic game in the regular season. So if they do get a rematch, it would be at FRA.
And what a job Justin Geisinger has
Yes.
done with FRA this year. I mean, that's just amazing that they get a second round. I don't know that if I were Lausanne, I would have just packed it in and played and been not got the bye at this point.
And another thing that I'll mention, CPA and Boyd Buchanan, they may be unfamiliar with playing each other, but the head coaches are not unfamiliar with each other. They've played each other several times.
Yeah. Yep, good to note there. Lower half of the bracket, well, there's Lipscomb Academy waiting for the ECS Silverdale winner, and that game is a neutral site game. It's going to be playing, guess where? Lipscomb Academy. So they get to scout on their home turf this week. Knoxville Webb awaits the winner of Davidson Academy and North Point Christian as the Bears go all the way to south of Memphis, actually into Mississippi to play their first round game, believe it or not.
Yeah, I looked that up too. South Haven, Mississippi, and they're a TSSAA team.
Yes.
You guys, no disrespect to any of these teams on this side of the bracket, but this is you talking about chalk. This is chalk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, well, if Davidson Academy doesn't get bus lag, uh, I think they got a good shot to move on to Knoxville Webb. But yeah, I agree. I think at some point, unless Lipscomb Academy, just get has a bad case of the dropsies, or I don't know, just falls
Well,
over.
the deal is, guys, they played a bad half against CPA, and it still didn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's point out though real quick, Davidson Academy has made this trip to North Point already this season and came away with that win no problem. I think they'll do that again, and could be interesting to see them against Knoxville Webb to see what happens in that potential second round game.
Potentially, that Davidson Academy offense found some stride when Cortland Simmons came back.
Yep.
Yes.
In AAA, it is Knoxville Catholic at Christian Brothers in round one. The winner travels to NBA in the quarterfinals. St. Benedict at McCallie. That winner gets to go to Innsworth in the upper half. We talked about chalk. It seems like this might be it here.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys. That McCallie Ainsworth game has potential to be a great game.
Yeah.
I'm not out of. I wouldn't call it chalk. It's too close for me, especially if it's McCallie.
Yeah, if it's McCallie, I could see it.
Yeah, it's so weird to see McCallie without the bye.
Yeah.
In this region, it's. I mean, yeah, they should have no trouble with St. Benedict, but they're moving them away from Chattanooga now. They're so used to playing. Hey, it's November, we're at home.
Right.
So they have to travel to Nashville, but I still think that what worries me about what worries me is NBA should not stumble. They've not stumbled all year, but you kind of worry about that being out there. And whether it happens against McCallie or Innsworth, it's something that they're going to have to guard against. I'm sure they're grounded and they're on a mission, and they should run this. I would be shocked, but then again, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an upset here.
I think in terms of NBA, it will be an absolute shock if they lose. Just putting it out there, just because of the way they played all year and how they've dominated a lot of teams, just the way that team has been working like a machine this season. If they lose, it's a shock to me.
Yeah.
If they lose before Chattanooga, it's a shock, in my opinion.
Yeah, see that. I think that's fair. I think
a potential matchup with Baylor. That game was so close the first time. I wouldn't call it a shock if Baylor was to win that second matchup.
Yeah. On the bottom half, it's Father Ryan at MUS. The winner travels to Baylor. Pope Prep will host Briarcrest, and Brentwood Academy gets that second round game at home.
I'm hitting my upset alert button.
Uh-oh.
Father Ryan over MUS. They did it last year on the road at MUS. I believe that they could possibly do it again this year. When you have a quarterback like JoJo Crump that can put up the points like that, I know that Father Ryan defense has struggled at times this year, but MUS better be on upset alert.
Yeah, for sure. And Brentwood Academy sitting there that one seed. Pope Prep has found some footing without Kenny Minchie, but they're not at 100% without him. So they can't overlook Briarcrest in any way, shape, or form, or else their season will be done around one.
Yeah, I mean, Chet Lax has actually stepped in and played well for Pope Prep. I think that they have what it takes to move it on. But, boy, that Brentwood Academy team right now is playing incredibly, incredibly well. I think MUS is I understand what you're saying, Cam, and I'm not disagreeing. I do think that when you have a player like JoJo Crump, you kind of throw everything out the window if he can make plays. But boy, that Baylor team's awfully tough. I would think that we would see Brentwood Academy and Baylor out of this region.
Yeah,
I agree. That potential matchup, if you're NBA, you're kind of glad that both of them are on the opposite side. I know McCallie is McCallie, and they're the defending champs, but
yeah,
I'd definitely rather be on the other side of the quadrant from those two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, before we move forward, Scott, I think we have a new announcement to make about a new sponsor coming on board.
We do. We have a new sponsor for our playoff coverage and also for our regional players of the year. And that's Gastight. Gastight's a manufacturer of corrugated stainless steel tubing for commercial and residential gas heating systems. Gastight and Flash Shield CSST they're American made and manufactured in Portland, Tennessee. So you can visit gastight.com to learn more. Corrugated stainless steel tubing. They've also just released a new line of line sets for HVAC use called Python. You can view that at pythonls.com. It's a great company there in Portland, one of our Middle Tennessee areas that we cover, and quite frankly, we're glad to have them. We appreciate them on, and thanks for joining the team.
All right. Yeah, glad to have Gastight on as a playoff coverage sponsor for the 2022 season. More hopefully to come later on this year. We need to pay some more bills. Here's Innovate Medical before we go forward. Oh, boy, with all this playoff talk, guys, made me thirsty to make some picks. Let's do that, shall we, guys?
Nice segue.
Yeah. Speaking of thirsty,
Nope.
week 11 was bloodthirsty.
Nope.
Yeah, we took a big chance by picking 15 games last week, and boy, some of us paid for it. So
some of us paid off.
Some of it, yeah, but the top four are still separated by 5 games. So with the 5 weeks to go, still anybody's game. I mean, Reggie's had a bit of a second half swoon, but other than that, it's still pretty close. Well, let's check out the overall board for this year, and yeah, Cam's slowly but surely kind of sneaking up on me, so I got to pick it up here in the postseason. Last week's the told you so's from last week. Scott had Columbia Academy over Grace Christian. Tom had Clay County over Gordonsville, and Cam had Stone Memorial over DeKalb County. I personally couldn't care less.
I know what the Pittsburgh Pirates feel like now.
Best farm system in baseball.
Oh, man.
Quad A baseball right there. All right. Let's look back at this
valedictorian of summer school.
Let's look back at this mess from week 11. Cam and the fans picked Brentwood over Centennial. We all had CPA correct. Nashville Christian, 4 out of 6 had Nashville Christian. Smith County, Cam and Reggie were on the Owls. Reggie and I had Waverly over Fairview in that one. Everybody but the fans had Clarksville over Gallatin, and there's Thomas. Clay County win. Harpeth, Reggie went with Harpeth. That didn't work out for him. Westmoreland won that one, and so did the rest of us. McGavick over Laverne. We all swept that one, and we were split on Ravenwood Independence. We all took Smyrna over Overton. 5 out of 6 with Riverdale over Stewart's Creek. Reggie lost that one, and Reggie lost the rest of his picks too. But again, that's a tough week for him. We all lost Charleston County at Watertown, and so hats off to the Yellow Jackets again for that win. Middle Tennessee Christian, Reggie tried with the Cougars, but it didn't work out. Friendship Christian won that one. And Scott, Tom, Cam, and the fans all had Mount Juliet over Green Hill. So there you go. On to week number 12, round 1 of the postseason. We've got Maplewood at Fairview to start us off. Let's go quickly because we're going to run out a little bit of time here. We've all got Fairview in this one. Cam, take this one if you would.
Yeah, too much, guys. This Yellow Jacket team got off to a slow start last week against Waverly, really got behind their ball and just couldn't make up enough ground in that matchup. I definitely like them against the Maplewood team, but kudos to that Maplewood program getting things headed back in the right direction with a playoff appearance.
Yep. Gallatin at Cane Ridge. It's that 1 versus 4 matchup over there at 6A. We're all on the Ravens this week. Scott, give me what you got on that one.
Yeah, well, the Green Wave's kind of in the last couple of weeks turned into more of a lazy river than a tsunami. Um, just the dominant run attack has not generated any points. Cane Ridge has had this game circled since they were upset in the first round last year. Coach Eddie Woods made a point of changing the culture on the basis of this, and here's where we see just what effect that has.
All right. McGavick at Beach, another 1-4 on the opposite side, with the Buccaneers as the 1 seed here, and we're all going with the Buccaneers in this one too. Tom, why don't you hit us up this one?
I think McGavick's had a nice season, guys, but I like Beach Justice Law in this game. I just think they're going to get it done at home, and I expect McGavick to be scrappy. Again, they've had a good season, but I think it's Beach all the way.
All right. Hendersonville at Smyrna. We're agreeing a lot here, guys. This kind of concerns people. We're all
Guys,
taking
I'm not going to be
helping
able to
me
make up
gain
any
ground.
ground at this rate.
You're not helping me get back from 26 games out here. Come on now.
Come on, pick some up. Yeah, step out on a limb. We did it all year for you.
That's right.
big challenge here for Hendersonville as they've struggled down the stretch with Steven Mack could give them some stability in the running game. But the way Aaron Carter and this Smyrna defense has been all year, it's going to be really tough to go to Smyrna and get a win, and I like the Bulldogs for that reason. Wilson Central at Nolensville. Wait a minute. Reggie's going with Wilson Central, and I bet we all know why.
It's a cat.
It is the Cat Sticking Together Pick of the Week, sponsored by. Oh, wait, we don't have a sponsor for that. Sorry. All right.
I'll call Friskies later.
Okay, there we go. The rest of us have Nolensville. Now I'm going to take this one too. I just think that Nolensville has too much firepower here. Wilson Central has improved in the last month, but not to the point where they're going to beat Nolensville, especially not at home. And the way that Chance Fitzgerald has played recently, Samson Johnson get a lot of the bulk of the work last week, and Kobe Walton, the quarterback. I think that's too much for Wilson Central, and I like the Knights to advance, and I think it's kind of the reason that we all, except for Reggie, like the Knights to advance. On to page 2, Sycamore at Smith County, who had down in the hole in Carthage. Smith County across the board. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, I like the Owls. Playing at home, it's like I said earlier, they got that 1 seed, and I thought just a huge win over East Nashville for that program last week. Matt Dyer's doing a fantastic job, and Smith County, I don't think is really getting enough credit in 3A. I saw they only moved up, I think, 1 spot after that win last week. They're going to be a tough out playing down in the hole out of that quadrant. I like Smith County here, and I think they may go a few rounds in these playoffs.
Yep. Green Hill at Page. They run this one back from the quarterfinals last year. It was at Green Hill. Page blew them out. Don't see that happening this year, but we're all taking the Patriots just the same. Scott.
Yeah, I look at this and I think, every week we say, don't kick it to Caleb Garver. And every week they kick it to Caleb Garver. Don't think Coach Rathbone will make that mistake. I like, this was a very close game, but when you look at it closely at the resume, only one of the wins for Green Hill came against the playoff team. That was Wilson Central in week 3, whereas Page has wins against Fairview, Coffee County, Giles County, Franklin County, Lincoln County. I just think Page is too strong. It's a tough pick, but they're at home, and I like the Patriots.
All right. Overton at Clarksville. Like we said, that's running this one back from week 1 where Overton won late on a touchdown here in Clarksville. The first game we're finally split on, truly across the board. Cam and I and Reggie are on the Bobcats, of course, and Scott and Tom have Clarksville. Cam, why don't you get us started here?
Yeah. I changed this pick at 3:30 this afternoon. That's how I feel about this matchup, guys. It's hard to beat a team twice for sure, but I just think that Overton team with Ryder Hagen is good enough offensively to go on the road and score enough points to get a win and hopefully get Juice Majors back next week.
Yep. I'm going to second that. And I'm going to mention the name Javon Edmondson in the backfield for Overton. He's going to be carrying the load for this offense. And if he has a productive night, I think they'll win again. Scott, why don't you give me the Clarksville side of it?
The Clarksville side of it, once again, Coach Shelby has his offense running on all cylinders, even though Davin Geringer is coming back. They put together a pretty nice 5-game winning streak, and that included a win over Hendersonville. I just think that Jamar Carnell is just a better running back. I like Overton. I think they're good. I just think that right now, Clarksville at home is playing confident, and they're playing very well.
All right. And the game that you're going to be at, White House at East Nashville this week, we're all on the Eagles. Go ahead and give me your take on this, Scott.
Well, I think it's not time to panic. This is a game, even though East Nashville's dropped 2 games in a row. They averaged 40 points a game up until the last 2 where they've managed 14. But those were against 2 very good defensive teams. I think that White House is a young team. I think that they can stay with them for a little while, but I expect Zach Beard and Frank Gordon to have a big game in this one.
All right.
Yeah, I look for the Eagles to get their feet back up under them in this one. Yeah. They were still reeling a little bit from that Riverdale game against Smith County. Going to the hole's a hard place to go in. I think the Eagles get headed back in the right direction.
All right. And that brings us to our spotlight game of the week, which is Riverdale at Lebanon. And we're split here too. Tom and Scott are on Riverdale. Cam and I are on Lebanon, and we'll get Reggie's pick in a minute. But I want to hear from Tom first about this one.
Yeah, I'll tell you. This was my toughest game, guys. I mean, I think I picked this last out of all the games we had and just back and forth. I love Lebanon and what Coach Gentry does. I think his team's going to be prepared. I just feel like Riverdale's finally found the offense. They finally got themselves back on track. They've been playing some really good football down the stretch. Isaiah Verser, they found somebody that can carry the rock in the backfield. He had a great game last week with 227 yards. They're a great defensive team, as we all know. Caleb Herring leading the way on that side of the ball. Man, I tell you what, it's not going to surprise me if either team wins this football game, but I just like the way Riverdale's been playing of late, a little bit better than Lebanon, and I think Riverdale's going to go on the road and get it done in round 1 in a tough football game and environment.
All right. Cam, give me the Lebanon side of it.
Yeah, the Lebanon side of it, guys, is, Lebanon has struggled at times this year, especially putting up points. But one thing that Lebanon has not struggled at is defense, guys. You got Jack Kleiner on the defensive line with closing in on 10 sacks this year. You got Nolan Sandifer in the secondary. You got Anthony Crowell in the secondary. I just really think that this Lebanon defense is good enough to win in what I believe may be a lower scoring game than most predict, like a 17-14 type ball game.
We've yet to hear from one. Scott, go ahead and I'll let you go.
No. I was just agreeing with Cam. I think you're right. I think it is a lower scoring game. I think that Isaiah Verser is going to be critical for Riverdale. I mean, you're talking about a team that averaged 19 points a game the first 8 weeks. Now they're averaging 31.5. I think to Tom's point, they found an offense. But these are two really, really good defenses here. And so for that reason, I do think, Cam, that you're right. It is going to be a grind.
Well, we've yet to hear from one on this game, and it's time for Reggie to make his weekly pick. So let's see who he's got.
It's time for him to make his picks. Sniffing around. He's made his pick. His pick for the first round of the playoffs is the Warriors of Riverdale High School.
Well, there you have it. Reggie's going with Riverdale. So Scott, Tom, and Reggie are on the Warriors. Cam and I are on the Blue Devils. And just a reminder that you can vote on all these games at our website, 615preps.com. Vote for who you think is going to win up until kickoff on Friday this week. So make sure to go and do that. Let's recap these real quick. We've all got Fairview, we've all got Cane Ridge, we've all got Beach, we've all got Smyrna. Reggie has Wilson Central. The rest of us are on Nolensville. Page 2, we've all got Smith County, we've all got Page, we've all got Overton, we've all got East Nashville. Actually, check that. We've got Scott and Tom have Clarksville. The rest of us had Overton. We've all got East Nashville. Scott and Tom have Riverdale. The rest of us, Scott and Tom and Reggie have Riverdale. The rest of us have Lebanon. So try to do that as quickly as possible. Big show. We're done. So one more word from all of y'all before we get out of here. Cam, start us off.
Yeah, I'll start us off by saying this, guys. It's playoff time. I know we cover 88 teams. Not all 88 teams made the playoffs, of course. But these 10 matchups are the only 10 matchups that included 2 teams from the 615 area code. if you do not see your game picked in our top 10, you can find those picks online at 615preps.com later on in the week. We pick every game involving a 615 Preps team, so don't get discouraged. Just look on our website later on in the week. And then I have to bask in the glory a little bit, guys. For the first time since I was 3 years old, the Tennessee Volunteers are number one.
Much to music to Scott's ears.
Oh,
I could have lived without that.
yeah.
Speaking of music to Scott's ears,
Well,
Don't play it. We can't afford it.
yeah. Well,
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
That's your only excuse that works.
that's why that's the only saving grace right here, Scott. Is that the money aspect of it? So, it's
But
not
hey, guess what? We can sing it though. Rocky Top, you'll always be.
home sweet home to me.
and there goes the headset.
Is it over? Halloween was yesterday.
It's Big Orange Day every day, Scott. Don't you do
Yeah.
that? All right, Tom, why don't you take the next one?
I'll tell you what, guys. One thing I've noticed in high school football, and it's been coming for a few years, but I've really paid close attention to it this year. That's the parity in high school football. We've seen more, I guess, equalness in all the teams than we've ever seen before. You know, it's to the point where we look at teams that maybe 2-8, 3-7 going into the playoffs. And in years past, you know, a lot of people felt like if your record was 2-7, you know, 3-8, whatever, something like that, you didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. This year's been a different story. Look at 2-8 Trousdale County. That comes down to a Week 11 matchup with a longtime rival in Watertown. Trousdale County wins that game. They keep their tradition alive. They go to the playoffs. I'm saying all this to say there's going to be a lot of great football playoff action starting on Friday night. I think we're going to see some upsets, some games that are going to be surprising, some games that that are going to be closer than I think a lot of people realize. And I tell you, I think it's just all due to the parity. Everybody's gotten, you know, bigger, faster, stronger. Everybody's just gotten a little bit better. And I think it's made it more fun for high school football this year.
Yeah, Scott, you're up.
Couple of reminders. One, if you're traveling to East Tennessee, check your game time. You don't want to show up an hour late to your game. It would be something I would do. It was something I did do once to a Tennessee game. The second thing is we've broken the 300 mark or the 700 mark. We're at 282. Come on, folks. We're in the home stretch. Need you guys to get your friends and family to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hey, if you're listening to us on a podcast, go to whatever. If you're listening to us on Apple, go to Apple, rate us. Give us, if you would, a 5-star review. It helps us get found by people who may not know that we exist, or wish we didn't. But anyway, you know, those kind of things help keep this ship going. And if you want one of these shirts, just reach out to us at 615preps at gmail.com, and we'll get you set up.
I want to piggyback off something Tom said. He made a great point. The parity around this area, and a lot of that is due to the talent level in this area just coming through the roof in the last couple of years with all the transplants coming in from out of state. And I know some people don't like that, but whatever. As far as high school football is concerned, this area, it's been a boon for it because the last 2 years, the talent level has gone through the roof, and we've seen it in a lot of places. And there are some teams that haven't necessarily been the blue bloods in this state that have come to power over the last few years. That said, this playoff feels like it could be very unpredictable in a lot of places just because of that parity and that talent level spread across the board. But we are still going to have some teams that are going to be dominant and probably win their state championships without much of a fight. You could be looking at Oakland. You could be looking at NBA. You could be looking at Friendship Christian. There are several of those who have the chance to really run the table and just assert their dominance over everybody. Not saying that'll happen, but if it does, you heard it here first. So when you think about these playoffs and how they might look and how, if you're going to pick your games, who you're going to look at, first off, have fun with it. Enjoy these next 5 weeks because they're going to be a lot of fun. But secondly, appreciate the type of talent that we have in this area because 5 or 6 years ago, it wasn't like this.
And I'll add one more thing real quick. Guys, there's only one in each of these classifications is going to be able to bring home a state championship. Only one. The other teams do not get to bring home a state championship. There's going to be hundreds, there's going to be thousands of players in the state of Tennessee that play their last football game that they'll ever play. Be respectful and mindful of that, and do not do something that's out of the ordinary or silly or disrespectful. Those kids will remember this for 30 years from now, win or lose here in the playoffs. Just be respectful and mindful of that.
And a quick programming note before we get out, Scott and I will be over at Liberty Creek Thursday night. They're actually adding a 10th game to their schedule. They will host Ezel Harding. Both of those schools were not eligible for the playoffs this year, so they're going to play each other to cap their seasons on Thursday up there in Gallatin. So we'll be out there for that one. And great to see those facilities because they're magnificent. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. That's all the damage we could do for the Midstate 48 this week, powered by Miracle Auto Group. We are back here on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Right here with all the scores. We'll update the brackets, all that good stuff. You know how we roll. For Cam, for Tom, for Scott, I'm Chris. We're out. Thanks. Have a lot of fun this weekend. We'll see you Saturday.
Good old Rocky Top.